Yeah, that's good, yeah. I'm going to read chapter 21 of Zach's Lie. Whoops. There's Zach's Lie. Why Zach got to be lying? What I don't want Peter to mess this thing up. Because I kind of like what Zach's got. You know, he likes Elko. He likes Catalin. She likes him. He's friends with Sam. He's got another buddy. If Peter messes this up, I'm going to be very upset. Like, very upset. So I hope Zach finds a way to silence Peter. Chapter 21, Zach stayed up in his room until the smell of the Basque food drove him downstairs. He had not eaten since breakfast. No, I don't want baleada, thank you. People are screaming baleada. He took a chair near Sam at the end of the long table. Feeling better? Sam asked. Not really, but I thought I should eat something. Benat Pasquale entertained the table with his stories. He had bought a round of drinks for everyone at the table except Zach, which had put everyone in a merry mood. Let's get a drink. Leaving Las Vegas. Despite what he had to tell Catalin later, Zach felt his mood lighten a little under the influence of men's laughter and good food. Catalin brought in a huge bowl of salad and put it in front of Zach with a big smile. He couldn't help but smile back at her. How was he going to tell her that he did not want to see her again? I hope he doesn't do this. The Short family was shown to a table near the window. As they came in, Peter caught a glimpse of Kat going into the kitchen through the swinging door. He hoped she would wait on their table. She didn't, and a minute later she came back through the kitchen door, balancing a platter of meat in each hand, and headed for the long table with the Basque borders. Peter followed her progress and was stunned when he saw Zach sitting at the end of the table with his back to him. Kat put the platters on the table, then stood next to Zach and said something to her grandfather, and as she spoke, she rested her hand on Zach's shoulder. Peter was too far away to hear what she was saying, but whatever it was, Zach must have found it amusing, because he laughed. You won't be laughing later, Jack, Peter muttered. What's that, son? His mother asked. Nothing. You called the wrong man's bluff, Peter thought. His parents began recounting their big win at the casino. He had heard it all before and turned them out as he watched Kat come and go to the long table. On each trip, she either said something to Zach or brushed up against him. By the time their food arrived, Peter was almost too angry to eat. His parents, on the other hand, gulped their food like starved wolves, eager to be on their way to Reno. So what are you going to do while we're gone? His father asked with a mouthful of mashed potatoes. Hang around the trailer, I guess. Well, to be honest with you, there's a chance we won't be back by Sunday. Depends on how the cards are running. I'll be fine, Peter said, as if they cared. It didn't matter when they came back. He had already decided that he was leaving Elko on the first available flight. He was going to play his last card. By the time his parents came chugging back into town on empty, he would be in San Francisco. He probably wouldn't even notice he was gone. I'm gonna take off, Peter said, standing up. We're done too, his father said. Catalin came into the dining room again and saw Peter and his parents walking out of the dining room. She walked over to the long table, took a hold of Zach's hand, and whispered something to him. Zach immediately pulled his hand out of hers and turned around, but Peter was no longer there. Zach ignored the look of shock on Catalin's face as he stood up, almost knocking his chair over. What's the matter, Zach? Sam asked. The table had gone quiet. The men stared at him. Nothing. I've got to go to the restroom. He didn't wait to see the response. He wove his way through the other tables, hoping to catch Peter before he left, but he was too late. He stepped out the front door and saw two people getting into their car, and he ran over to them. Excuse me, aren't you Peter's parents? We sure are, Peter's dad said. I'm a friend of his from school. I saw you in the Nevada eating. Where's Peter? I think he went home, Peter's mother said. He had a lot of smart work to do. Oh, well, I was hoping to talk with him. I had a question about one of our assignments. Which direction did he go? We have a place at the trailer park. Over on Cypress. Peter's dad said, Number 42. If you hurry, you can probably catch up to him before he gets there. Zach ran all the way to the trailer park, and when he got there, he had a difficult time finding Peter's trailer in the dark. The numbers weren't marked very well. He didn't know exactly what he was going to say to Peter when he found him. He would apologize or something, or tell Peter he hadn't had a chance to talk to Catalin alone, that he would have already broken up with her if Peter hadn't shown up at the Nevada. He found the trailer. Lights were off. He knocked on the metal door, but no one answered. Well, now what? Zach sat down at the rickety picnic table in front of the trailer. Maybe Peter had stopped somewhere on his way home. He would have to show up eventually. And Zach decided to wait for him. Now, of course, I'm not going to stop and explain all of this, but as I read, I see phrasal verbs popping up all over the place. Show up. Anyway, I'm not going to go back. I just found 3, just in the last, Catalin knocked on Sam's door. Where's Zach? She asked. He's not in his room. I know, Sam said. What's going on? I was going to ask you the same thing. Did anything happen today at school? Well, Zach's been acting strange all day, but he wouldn't talk about it. It started this morning when he saw writing on Mrs. Miller's chalkboard. Well, I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. He must have gone home to get something. Catalin looked at him doubtfully. Well, if he doesn't come back soon, Sam said, I'll get in the truck and see if I could find him. I'll go with you. No. You just go home with your folks. We need to get an early start tomorrow. Catalin started to protest, but Sam put his hand up. I'll have Zach give you a call when he gets back. It's nothing to worry about. But Sam was very worried. He had just called Zach's house and no one answered. He had known something was wrong when he saw Zach after school and was kicking himself for not pushing the issue more. See, if they had Google Hangouts, they can, communicate with each other. They didn't have this back then. There was a knock on Alonzo Azna's door. Paul got up and looked through the peephole. It's another kid. Let him in, Alonzo said. Perhaps he has some news for us. Paul opened the door and Peter stepped into the room. Alonzo stared at the boy, trying to remember who he was. And I'm afraid I have forgotten your name. Peter. That's right. I believe I told you to call it if you had information for me. Call if. Well, I was going to, but I thought it would be better if I talked to you face to face. Please have a seat and tell us what you have learned. Peter sat down. He had rehearsed what he was going to say all the way to the hotel, but he had expected Hector to be alone. Maybe we should talk by ourselves, Peter suggested, and Alonzo smiled smoothly. These men are close associates. You can speak freely in front of them. I found the Osborns, he said, and Alonzo did not react. Over the past week, they had heard the same thing 6 times from different informants. Each time, the information had been wrong. Alonzo knew that if he stayed in town much longer, the Osborns would find out that someone was making inquiries to tell the authorities. How much was that reward again? Peter asked. $2,000. I think the information I have is worth a lot more than that. Oh, really? Peter nodded. The boy's name used to be Jack, and his sister's name was Joanne. That is correct, Alonzo said, hiding his excitement. What are their names now? I want to talk to you about the reward money first, Peter said with a bravado he did not feel. I suppose we could increase it if the information you have proves to be accurate. Say $5,000. See, all these movies and books, it's always about money. It's always money. Peter smiled, his confidence growing. If you put a 0 on the end of that 5,000, we have a deal. Whoa, 50,000. You can buy a nice car. Toyota Prado, new. Ooh, what about the reward? And Alonzo nodded to Paul, and he went into the other room and came back with thick stack bills. Alonzo laid the bills on the table in $1,000 piles. Wow. Alright, yeah, this is drug dealer style. Here's the money, Alonzo said. You must earn it. Peter stared at the piles. He can go anywhere in the world with this kind of money. They call themselves the Grangers now, he said. Alonzo pushed a stack of bill toward Peter. Peter picked the money up. Phrasal verb. Picked the money up. They live at 2276 Elm Street. Good. Don't have any nightmares on that street. Another stack was pushed over. His mother is opening a bookstore right across the street from here. Across the street, Alonzo repeated. She was right across the street from us the whole time? He glared at Barry and Paul. The store's not open yet, Peter said. 2 more to go, Peter. They're both yours if you tell me how you heard the name Alonzo. Peter reached into his shirt pocket and took out the piece of paper he had picked up in the hallway. Alonzo stared down at the sketch. Where did you get this? He asked very quietly. It fell out of Jack's journal. It's not in Jack's writing, though. It must have come from someplace else. Where's this journal now? Jack has it. Alonzo pushed the rest of the money across, then nodded to Paul and Barry. They grabbed Peter and pinned him to the floor. Ooh, he's going to tap out. Alonzo retrieved his money. Your information has been very valuable, Peter. Unfortunately, you know a little too much for our own good. In Russia, when people get in trouble like this, we say, On znal slishkam mnogo. On znal slishkam mnogo. He knew too much. Yeah, you don't want to be an investigative journalist in Moscow and know too much. This is what happens. They eliminate you. Peter cannot respond because Paul had stuffed a wash rag from the bottom of his mouth. Ooh. What do you want to do with him? Barry asked. Alonzo looked down at Peter, who was still lying on the floor. Take him to the airplane, he said. We'll deal with him later. Tell the pilot to get the airplane ready. Barry and I will collect the other passengers and this so-called journal. The Osborns are going on an unscheduled vacation to Colombia. Wow. I'm excited. I would like to go to Colombia, but not with these guys, because I'm a huge fan of Deportivo Cali. Remember in Russia the saying, On znal slishkam mnogo. He knew too much, and now Peter is in big, big trouble. These are guys you don't want to mess with.